Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Spain, everybody.
What's happening? I love following up the commissioner as the commish.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, I think we should at least mention that because our fans can be, I'm not going to use the word annoying, but they can be persuasive. When it
persistent,
comes to,
if you will, which is a good thing.
Yeah. It's nice to see, we're both stand-up comics. We've been doing this show for a couple of years, and people are like, you need to meet and talk to Sarah Spain immediately. Okay. Yeah. So we have ambassadors out on Twitter.
I appreciate that. And it's not your burners? I thought it was one of your burners.
No. I mean, we would have come up with something way less cool than Glenster. It would have been like some guy named Bob Smith just constantly tweeting.
So let's begin with obviously just a couple months ago, the news about you becoming a co-owner of the Chicago Red Stars. We had talked about it when the announcement was made. This is not the usual kind of transition you see from ESPN host, ESPN personality, or journalist to therefore going into owning the team. So what led to this decision and you wanting to be a part of Chicago Red Stars history?
So it was a little bit of like a slow moving thing that ended up just working out great. So I had been a fan of the team and had gone to a game or two. And then a couple of years ago, they decided to have a Sarah Spain bobblehead night. So I consider that the initial flirtation from them. They were like putting out feelers. They were like, let's see if she'll come hang out with us in a more official capacity than just as a fan. And then I ended up having such a good time at the couple games I went to and felt like more people should hear about the Red Stars in Chicago. It's a really flooded marketplace. We have a lot of teams. So I threw a party. I had a tailgate, and I just told everyone, all right, I got your beer, I got your pizza, I got your Malort shots, I got your party. Just get your tickets to the game, and we'll have a couple hours where we'll hang before we go in. And so hung out with the majority owner at the party, got to know some more fans. And so when everything went down with Angel City and all the new ownership group over there, I think Arnhem, our majority owner, kind of looked around and thought, well, I would like some help. That would be nice. Like, I'll add some other owners into the mix. The Red Stars are the longest running and the winningest, and he's been at it since the beginning, including other iterations of women's professional soccer leagues. So he's been in it for the long haul, and now was like, let me bring in some other folks, get some money, get some insight, get some connection, get some sponsors, get some whatever. So I was one of the people they reached out to, which, as you pointed out, is super awesome to have someone reach out and ask if you're interested in potentially being a part. And first call goes to the financial advisor. Like, is this possible? And can I? And then after that, it's like all in.
Financial advisor.
You have a financial planner. If someone said, Alexis, do you want to own something? I'd be like, let me call my financial planner. Hey, wife, is it cool if can I borrow?
Financial advisor's like, are you sure? And they're like, they made a bobblehead. I can't say no.
Which, by the way, that guarantees no team will ever make a bobblehead of us too, because they're like, we don't want these guys coming anywhere near us. Do you think more people would have showed up if you didn't force Malort shots on them?
No, I think that if you know about Malort, then you're either in it to have it or you already know the best evasion tactics. And if you don't know about it, then you're like, oh, I keep hearing about this. Like, I'll go check it out. And here's the thing, and this is very important. And I watched a previous episode of yours where someone was like really in the weeds about pizza, and it was very useful facts. I don't know if it clouded his opinion on where the best pizza is from. I don't think we need to get into that here, but I just want to point out that there's a very important thing that everyone needs to know about Malort, and that is that like a year or two ago, they changed their recipe. It came down to their distributor for one of the main ingredients. I can't remember which one it was, but because of that, it is so much less terrible than it used to be. It is still not good. But when people come to Chicago now and they take the shot and then they like make the face and they're like, everyone's exaggerating, it's not that bad. I'm like, no. This is new and improved Malort, and your dog is really fired up about this.
Yeah. My dog totally hates Malort. I tried giving him all the time.
Rub it on his gums when he's teething.
He had the original recipe, and he is in the background like, yes, preach, commish. The new stuff is not as bad.
Well, I can't believe they couldn't get a special ingredient. I don't know if it has something to do with chemical warfare or what that ingredient was. Maybe uranium of some sort. Yellow cake. It's disgusting.
It's the special ingredient that makes it so that Malort's tagline is Malort, tonight I fight my dad. Or alternatively, Malort, punch your mouth in the balls.
Yeah. All of these sound like you didn't even need a a marketing research group. These are just hang out at a bar in Chicago. You'll know.
The first time we went to Chicago, we went for a Chicago Fire game. Okay, Nutmeg's a big fan, but we went there, and Malort was almost the first conversation when we stepped off the plane. There was like,
it's a rite of passage, if you will.
Yeah. What is the sort of pride? And it's a very Chicago thing. No one ever talks about it anywhere else. What is that sense of pride that comes with that?
It's pretty recent too. I think they realized the power of like the marketing campaign that like dares you to hate yourself, right? Like most marketing is like, this will be enjoyable. This one's like, don't do it. Oh, you wanna. Honestly, I think it's sort of like pledging a fraternity, or like being in a foxhole in the war, or like when The Bachelor makes people like bungee jump together. It's like that thrill of like, am I going to make it through this? And now I feel bonded to the people I shared this experience with. So if you come to Chicago, you can always remember the time that you had Malort and either did or did not remember what happened with the rest of your day.
It's like how Latinos always like joke around about how we got beat with chancletas by our moms.
Yes, 100%. You have to laugh through the tears. Yeah.
It's like at least we have a shared experience.
It's very similar to the like, all that fart, and then you do it instead of being like, I don't wanna just enjoy that on your own. It's just like that. It's like, I can't be taking Malort and being miserable by myself. I need everyone to join.
Malort, don't find the fart, drink it.
Drink Malort. Drink the fart.
Okay, you gotta cut the fat.
I'm adding it to the list.
When you become a part owner of Malort, we just want in on the market research.
Listen, don't even joke about this. I'm trying to get some sort of Malort night at a Red Stars game. Like, this is how invested I am in making sure everyone experiences the magic.
It's gonna become it's Malort night, and it will turn into Malort morning.
It's gonna be our jersey sponsor. Like, everyone else is gonna have a reasonable sponsor, and we're gonna be the Chicago Red Stars presented by Malort, and I'm here for it. Honestly, feels right.
That would be kind of great. That would be kind of great.
So obviously the NWSL Challenge Cup just kicked off. Red Stars had their first match already. It's an interesting time, right? We were at the NWSL final that Red Stars unfortunately lost to North Carolina Courage.
Thanks for reminding me. Yep.
But
pre-ownership, that's the pre-Sarah Spain reign.
Even in while we were in Cary, North Carolina, the support from Red Stars fans. I mean, there were so many people from Chicago over there. So the fan base is absolutely incredible. We haven't been to a game in Bridgeview, but what's it, from being a fan and seeing all the fans there, what has been that that thing that makes the Chicago Red Stars support special, and what made you want to be a part of it to begin with?
Well, I mean, what made me want to be a part of it is just the awesome players and being like, wait, hold up. I can go see like Julie Ertz and Alyssa Nair and Tierna Davis and all these, Olympic and World Cup players in my backyard. It was what the original draw was. But so we have Local 134, which is our official rooters group, and they take over an end zone and get wild, and the chants and the drums and the everything. And they're awesome, and they're super welcoming. When I wanted to get involved in more games, when I was throwing the party, they were like, hey, can we jump on board? And I was like, please come help me throw this tailgate. Tell me all the stuff I need to know. And I just think, first of all, Bridgeview is a little bit outside of downtown. So it's like 20 minutes outside of downtown. So you could either view that as mildly inconvenient, or, in my opinion, it makes for such a beautiful game day because it's this gorgeous field, and then it's pretty wide open right around it. But in the background, you've got the access to understand that you're right by this big city. And it's just it's a really beautiful place to watch a soccer game. So you combine that with like Chicago fans who are extremely good travelers, extremely loyal to their squads, extremely loud. And then I lived in LA for 6 years, and I like LA and I like going back, but I will point out that like the biggest difference I used to say between living in LA and Chicago is in Chicago, your number one goal is to have an awesome time. And in LA, your number one goal is to look like you're having an awesome time. There's a very big difference there.
No, that makes perfect sense.
We will get hammered. We will get sweaty. We will dance when there's no music. We will meet strangers. I remember one of the first times when I moved back to Chicago, I was in Wrigleyville waiting for a friend, and they were late. So I was kind of standing awkwardly alone, and this table of girls were like, hey, you want to come sit with us? And I was like, why? Like, what's going on? Like, I forgot that that's just like, hey, come. More the merrier. Let's do this. And so I think in Chicago, between the tailgates and the games themselves, like, we just throw down. Like it could be a Wednesday night, and back where you're from, it's more like a Saturday.
Okay, we have so much more coming up with Sarah Spain, so come right back.
Hey, what's up? It's Roy Wood Jr. from The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and I kicked it with the Cooligans Living Room FC. Even though technically, if you're in a living room, you wouldn't want a full football club in your living room because that is not COVID compliant.
All right, welcome back to the Cooligans Living Room FC. We are here with Sarah Spain of ESPN and also co-owner of the Chicago Red Stars. And I want to talk about your career a little bit, just because I think we have a lot of things in common, right? We are comedians. You also have a comedy background. You did improv at Second City, and that was, that was a bit of a focus for you while you were in LA before you got specifically into sports. So I want to talk about that because we are basically doing the same thing, right? We're stand-up comics. We went through UCB, and now we're working in this sports industry, and there's a little bit of skepticism. I'm going to be honest. People are like, "What are these jokesters doing without
our scene?" We'll say it that way. If you improv,
so I know a lot of people
saying more of a no and and
it's like a but, which I'm not really ready for.
Like they keep doing that thing where they pull out the gun, and everyone knows you're not supposed to do that, but our career just dies. Yeah. Get in the room. No, it's actually, you guys are doing more of what I wanted to do. And I still get to dabble, but I do a lot more straight sports stuff than what I had anticipated. I mean, when I first moved to LA, I actually it had never occurred to me to work in sports, which is wild because I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I got recruited for all 3 in college. I was a Division I athlete. I was obsessed with Michael Jordan. Like all of my presents for birthday and Christmas were Bulls related. Like I was into it, but there were so few women. And my parents aren't really into sports. So like I wasn't dissuaded so much as it just did not occur to me. And no one brought it up. Like I often talk about this, and it's something that I didn't think about until much later in life. Like growing up, it wasn't like a bunch of adults were like taking me under their wing to talk about these things that I was really into. And I think that happens a lot with young boys that are into sports. Uncles or teachers or coaches are like, hey, let's talk about the big game. Like that didn't happen. So it was just my own little thing that I loved. And by the time I got to LA and I was doing Second City and I was doing auditions for, TV stuff and thinking about hosting, I just hosted a fake Chicago Bears show in a class to practice like welcoming in and throwing to break. And the teacher was like, oh, cool, you want to do sports? And I was like, there's no women in sports. And the ones that are either like very serious anchors or maybe like a sideline reporter. And those people look like supermodels and they get like 2 minutes to talk and they don't get to have personality. So like, that's not me. And she was like, well, maybe look into it. So thanks to that teacher, because I took a class in TV sports reporting at UCLA Extension. And all of a sudden it was like this aha moment of like, take the English major, I'm a writer, take the performative aspect and the sort of extemporaneous conversations that are especially good with the improv and interviews when you're reacting and going back and forth, and then sports, which I've always loved. And so it worked out. I mean, I do always have that like Gwyneth Paltrow sliding doors. What would my life be if I just stuck with it a little longer? Would I actually be on Saturday Night Live? Of course is the answer. But what I'm doing is also good. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the things that is a benefit to you doing this is you've opened the door. I mean, we hear sometimes from other people like, well, we didn't realize how easy it was to start a podcast, which is never always a compliment when they say it that way. You're like, all right, relax. You know?
Can have like almost no skill at all. Yeah. And now I'm just saying.
Essentially, they're like, if you two idiots are doing it, I mean, what the hell? And I might as well. But there is something to be said for a lot of times there's fans of ours that are women and they say like, oh, we would love to start a show or something. And it'd be like, you guys are doing it from this perspective. We'll do it from the female perspective. And you don't really think about the fact that there really aren't that many, or there seems to be a lot more now. But the fact that you had to be almost the first to do it, or you didn't have someone to look up to and go, oh, you can be, have a personality and be funny and be a woman in this field is sort of, I think, telling. And I think also being a sports owner as well, it has to give you some ability to be like, I think I might inspire some people in the future to be like, you don't just have to be an athlete. You know what I mean? You could own the team if you want. Are those things that you're kind of cognizant of now as you're sort of going through your career?
Totally. And I do want to say there were smart, talented, amazing women before me, but just if you're not super immersed in the world, they're not going to be like front facing. You have to go looking a little bit more. So especially like being in Chicago where I'm watching the Bulls, none of them are playing, talking, report, like, you're not seeing any women. So I wasn't diving deep enough in, but there's a lot of OGs that I've gotten to know that I owe a lot to, who opened a lot of doors. But you're right. Like, for instance, like when I think of especially comedic women in sports, I think first, Michelle Beadle and Katie Nolan, and both of them are contemporaries more so than people that I could have looked up to. So I hope I'm setting that sort of example of being able to be more authentic and transparent and silly. I think also what was required for that to be okay was a just base belief that women could like sports and know about them, because you need that before you're allowed to make jokes about them. And that's what I always used to say. Like, I actually wanted to be Kenny Mayne when I first started. I had the Spain event, which was my version of the main event. I did one for my hosting reel that was like, the NBA changed from leather to synthetic balls to appease animal rights activists, but we never talk about the millions of trees murdered for hardwood floors. like I was trying to do all the satire. And what I found was like, the jokes weren't hitting because people didn't think I knew what I was talking about. And that sucked. So like, Kenny, I remember used to do a highlight once with like, and he'd be like, oh, there's LeBron warming up. They're taking on the Pacers tonight. Heard he's really good. Never seen him play. And then that's hilarious. But when a woman says it, literally everyone's like, you should be fired. Yeah. And so it's so hard.
She admitted she doesn't know nothing.
Exactly. So you have to sort of like get to a certain place before people even respect that you're making a joke instead of actually you. Yeah. So I agree with that. And same with ownership. Like at any moment, those spaces not being the first GM, president, owner, anchor, reporter, play-by-play, any of those, the more that there are, the easier it is for people coming up to just assume like, hey, I can do that too, and have it not be a thing. And then the talent pool is so much bigger and the face of it changes, which it has even just in the time that I've been in the business.
Yeah, we deal with that within soccer, where especially we talk about a lot about American soccer. So, and there's a lot of people who've been like focused and covering and fans of MLS since 1996, and then we come in here 5 years ago and they're like, what are these? They don't know the thing I know from 1998.
You don't remember MLS Cup '97? We're like, no, we don't.
You're like, we don't. It's not necessary. We don't all have to remember it. Yeah.
I'm also a huge fan of Kenny Mayne. He does great work. I'm more of a Gucci Mane fan, but definitely
important
contemporary.
Yeah. I sometimes get them confused.
Well, very similar. Very similar.
We got more with Sarah Spain when we get back right after this.
Hey guys, it's Mallory Pugh, and I kick it with the Cooligans.
All right, welcome back to the Cooligans Living Room FC. Obviously, we're here with Sarah Spain of ESPN. And I just want everyone to know, in the commercial, Sarah shot me a very dirty look when I made fun of Deep Dish. So for everyone listening from Chicago, she's got your back. And
I just want to point out that during the commercial, these two fix their hair way more than I ever have for it. So I just want to point that out. Like, wrong with that. What? We all need to look our best, but there's a lot of ploofing and pulling, and
it takes a lot to make us look even remotely okay, Sarah.
Okay, so the competition is fierce today. All right, we're trying to keep up.
I mean, half of my hair is fake, so like I always pull that out because I always get the win. During quarantine, people were like, "Your hair still looks good." I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's never gonna get longer or shorter. It's just all it's fake.
It's glued in, baby."
Yeah.
I wish I could glue in a fade. I don't have to sit in a barber chair for 40 minutes.
Watch some late night TV. You can glue in a whole lot of things to your head and think that people believe you. I'm not naming any names. No shots taken.
I think we all know who you're talking about. We actually have our own supporters group. Actually, before we get to Gully Squad, I do want to ask you, being an owner of the the Chicago Red Stars, recently something that happened to a Chicago Red Stars player has made the news. Sarah Gordon, whose boyfriend actually his brother is a good friend of ours.
He's a comedian, Alzo, yeah.
Yeah. So we know them. And apparently there was something that happened down in Houston where some of the players went into the stands to greet family members, which I think respectfully everyone knows you shouldn't have done that. It was against the COVID restrictions of the stadium. But in particular, it seemed like only one person really got messed with by security, and it happened to be a black man. Do you want to mention anything? Have you spoken to Sarah Gordon? Have you seen some of the comments? Is there anything you just want to say? Because I know a lot of the fans had questions about that.
This is going to be the most terrible owner thing I've ever said in my life, but I appreciate you guys setting me up for being allowed for the very first time in my career to say that there is currently an investigation underway, and therefore I'm not allowed to give any statement on behalf of my team and other owners.
Okay.
No, that's
well
awesome.
Done.
What
All
an honor that you got to say that on our
it
show.
didn't feel as good as I thought it was going to feel. Like I thought it was make me feel like pretty rich. And like
I feel like there's
powerful.
a briefcase near you. Am I wrong? I feel like there's a briefcase.
I think for most people it does make you feel rich and powerful, but for me, like I always have opinions. So more, I'm like, oh, you're gonna have something to say.
Okay. Yeah, no, this is great.
It fits.
Okay, you have a Alexis, you going to read the first one?
Yes, Justin Freeberg, who is a big Philadelphia Union fan, wants to know, how does it feel to be an owner in the world's most popular sport? Is that something, I know you probably didn't grow up being a massive soccer fan, but now wildly popular, and the women's game is growing like crazy. So he wants to know just, what's that feeling like?
It's awesome. And it's kind of a weird twist for me because, like I said, I was like involved in so many sports growing up, but I played tennis, like USTA, which I ended up stopping when I got to high school because I couldn't do all the stuff at once. But field hockey, basketball, track, I went and saw the 99ers at Soldier Field in high school. So I wasn't like totally, I wasn't totally out of the soccer world, and I certainly had friends who played, but it's never been my focus. So it sort of was a weird thing to end up in the soccer world. And I'm frantically trying to catch up with like, enough of stuff from like the Premier League and stuff like that, or Premier. But for me, like it's always been about the U.S. Women's National Team. And then as an offshoot of that, the NWSL, which is actually really cool for me because I think a lot of times, like if our nostalgia is tied to the men's version, like for me, the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan are the end all be all. So I like the Chicago Sky, but they're not the Bulls to me. And with this team, they've always been my number one. Like I don't have another team that has ever drawn my attention and love the same way the Red Stars have and the U.S. Women's National Team. So to be a part of it, to have like Alex Morgan direct message me and be like, "Welcome to the league," I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, and I'm like obsessed with Megan. Like, there's so many players that I call them instead of just aspirational, instructional. Like, I really want to follow their lead as a woman, as a person, and as a citizen. So it's really cool.
Yeah,
that's
and there's something to speak to there about just the support of soccer fans overall. Like even on the women's side, and we've said this on the show before, our episodes where we interview women soccer players do better ratings wise than the men's. So that's awesome. Objectively, that's just a thing. The support is clearly there. And when you can compare, I'm a Knicks fan. When I go to Knicks games or just being around other basketball fans, it's not the same as being around other soccer fans. There's a passion. There's something different that makes it a little bit unique. The fandom is a little bit more unique than the other sports.
Yeah, I'm just fired up to like use this as an excuse to go to all the things that I already wanted to, but to sort of like pretend like I need to for work. So like obviously New Zealand, Australia is happening for the Women's World Cup coming up. Going to Louisville this summer for when the Red Stars are part of the the international friendly tournament. So I'm just gonna like try to dive in, but I'm gonna consistently use being an owner as the excuse if I don't know enough about it. Like, I try to stay hands off the personnel decisions. That way, if I actually don't know, I'm just like, I'm not allowed to speak on the competition, at center mid. Just like, just to avoid people like dogging me for like you not having watched the 97 MLS Cup.
We're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to be like, we have to go to Australia, New Zealand for research.
I mean, how have you not already you can't book it because of COVID and Australia's like dead lockdown. But like, obviously the Cooligans, it wouldn't be the World Cup without, right? I mean,
I agree. You heard it here first, folks.
Start budgeting now.
Actually, our producer said that's currently under investigation.
We had another question from Nicole Hack, who is obviously a big Fire and a Red Star supporter, been very actively involved in growing soccer in Chicago, who you should get to know. I highly recommend. But she said she has. A simple question. She says, what is your favorite Red Stars memory?
Ooh, actually, okay, so this is very random, and I have a couple great ones, but I have a friend who's been a friend of mine since high school who doesn't like sports. And So she saw Megan Rapinoe comment on not going to the White House in more colorful language.
Yeah.
And she was like, who is this lady? I love her. I love her hair. I love her vibe. I love her attitude. I love her approach to what's currently going on in our country. And she went to a park. We have these like big screens set up across World Cup and Olympic years in Chicago where you can go to public parks and get thousands of people together to watch. And so she brought a book with her in case she got bored because she was like, soccer? I'll try it.
And be drenched in beer in minutes.
Yeah. She was like, she literally had a picnic blanket and a book and sat like really far away from everyone in case she wasn't into it. And then she started watching and she fell in love. And so she came with me to a Red Stars game and just like was so excited and wanted to learn about it. And then eventually got so into it that she went to the Rose Bowl in California to go see a U.S. Women's National Team friendly when they came back. Like, and now she's like all in. And this was like her little door entry into the sports world. And I was like, when was the last sporting event you went to? She's like, does Taylor Swift at the United Center count? I'm like, no.
You got a little learning to do.
Yeah. When Taylor Swift dunked on JaVale McGee, I was pretty great.
So I think just that like idea of it being a place for like anyone and everyone to like dip a toe in and then realize that they love it. It was cool for me to like show her that. You don't usually at our age like get to bring someone to sports for the first time.
I picture your friend now like in Brazil with a Vasco da Gama tattoo on her arm.
I mean,
just like screaming.
I'm getting her to New Zealand, Australia, and she's going to be just like head to toe, ready to go.
Purple hair, just like Megan.
She literally did dye some of her hair purple this summer.
I
was like, yo, Megan Rapinoe's in there deep.
All right, we got so much more with Sarah Spain. Come right up. All right, we did it again. Thank you so much to the commish herself, Sarah Spain, co-owner of the Chicago Red Stars. I mean, look, the level of guests week after week is just only growing. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah.
Wait, does this mean we get to hang out in the owner's suite when we go to Chicago Red Stars matches?
There is a Malort toll. We'll see if you guys can handle it.
Okay. It's like, oh man, how badly do I want to be in a suite?
Chicken fingers, though, you know?
Yeah, so
it'd be crazy to me that people do not know where to find you, but let people know where they can follow you and see your work.
Well, they can find me like usually on a yacht with a monocle because I'm an owner now. But if you want to follow me on social media, it's at Sarah Spain on Twitter, at Spain2323 on Instagram, and then Spain and Fitz is on ESPN Radio nationally every night from 7 to 9 Eastern, and then Around the Horn, Highly Questionable, ESPNW Writing, all over the place. That's What She Said podcast every Tuesday. You keep me busy.
Yeah, nice. Amazing work. Yeah, and that's it. Around the Horn is definitely, that's where the first time I was seeing you regularly, and I became a huge fan definitely after that.
Thanks. So fun.
So the next thing that we do, this is becoming tradition on the show. It is the Golazo GIF. We ask our guests to celebrate a goal that we will turn into a GIF. What would you?
But you know what though? We're talking to an owner. So instead of you scored the goal, your Chicago Red Stars just scored the NWSL final winning goal.
Perfect. Yeah.
How do you, on your yacht, next to the stadium, how do you celebrate?
It is a premonition of this season then. So you're talking about when we win later. Perfect. Okay, so this is a GIF I'm making. I have props if you're ready.
Yeah,
let's go.
Okay. I'm worried.
Perfect.
I'm worried that out of context it might look weird to have my mouth open and doing whatever I just did. I'm concerned now.
We will make sure to apply all the context, okay?
Color as a green screen because that's another concern of mine. Just like the shape and the color that it might.
Okay, we'll get the Fubo team graphics to turn it a different color. Okay.
Yeah. We'll fix it. We'll censor the whole thing actually.
Thank you again.
Just like entire GIF is redacted.
It's under investigation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Can't comment on it. Sorry.
It's going to be the first blurred GIF, okay? So thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you follow us at Soccer Cooligans on all social platforms. Follow at Fubo Sports and subscribe to the Fubo Sports YouTube channel for full episodes of the show. Now let us end the show the way we normally do, as is tradition. So for Sarah Spain, my name is Christian Polanco.
I'm Alexis Guerreros.
And together, what are we?
The